And we are back for another incredible episode of the Cowbell, talking to extraordinary everyday people. And today is no different. And I'm very excited about this young gentleman that we've got on today. I'm going to describe this guy as a long-time listener and fan of our Cowbell podcast. He was one of the first to give me a lot of great feedback about what we're doing here between Kelvin and myself. But I'm also going to describe him as a very good friend now and mate and colleague as well. But I'm going to bring to the microphone Mr. Gavin Clifton from the Blue Mountains. Gavin, how are we?
G'day, Dave. How are you, mate? Good to see you again. How you been?
I'm very, very well. And we've got Kelvin as well here. Kelvin, how are you?
Yeah, very well, Dave. How are you?
I'm recovering
You
from a big
tired?
week, big weekend standing in the rain, working at City to Surf here in Bondi. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about this incredible human being, Gav Clifton. Now, Gav Clifton, for some of you who will know, is a Blue Mountains local, but he's a bit of a legend in the Blue Mountains for a whole bunch of reasons. He's a dad, he's a firefighter, he owns his own business, he works at Scenic World. He does a whole bunch of other stuff in the local gyms up there. But he's been, well, in and around ultra running and trail running for a long time in the community up there, with even some of the local running community up there in some of the events that they're doing up there. But he's also now, I guess, the brains and the person behind the Fireys Climb for MND. So that's coming up later in the month, Gav, and we're going to talk about that a fair bit. But before we get to that, we're going to do what we always do here, and we want to get to know a little bit about the man behind the uniform as you're sitting there in your New South Wales Fire and Rescue uniform, and a little bit about yourself. So, Gav, the floor is yours. Tell us what makes Gav Clifton tick.
Um, G'day, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's nice to talk to you all. What makes me tick is being really busy. I'm one of those people that probably the best way to describe me would be that I can't sit still. I'm forever moving. If I'm sitting there finding myself with nothing to do, I'll find something to do. So that sort of about sums me up in a nutshell. In between being a dad, being a husband, having my own business, trying to help my wife with her business, being a fiery, doing maintenance at the local gym, like you said. Life never stops. It's continuous. It's never ending. It just keeps rolling and rolling, rolling day in day out.
And so, have you always been like that? Is that just who Gav Clifton is?
Yes, yeah. I get bored very easy, so I'm always looking for the next thing and the next challenge. I'm always challenging myself as a person. Yeah, I'm just as even as a little kid, I could never sit still. Mum always used to joke about it, and I've always been the same. Always just been busy. I like being busy. Makes the weeks fun. Makes life fun. Makes a lot of fun.
Well, I think you and Kelvin would get along quite well because he likes being busy as well. Uh,
Probably, I don't want to fight fire though.
he
Too,
doesn't
too,
want to play. He
too
doesn't want.
dangerous. Like, but it's not important.
Yeah.
So, when did you then discover this thing that we often talk about here of ultra trail running and trail running, ultras and trail running in general? And then how has that changed your life in amongst all of the chaos and in amongst all of the hecticness that is Gav Clifton?
So as a kid, I was a cross country runner. I represented my schools in state cross country and regional cross country. So back in the days, back in that would have been the early '80s, I suppose, Dave. I'm not going to tell you how old we are. We're all about the same age, aren't we? But in the early '80s, we used to race out at Muirfield High School and Amaroo Park Raceway before it closed, and um, all these different areas. So cross country, I guess dirt running slash trail running was always with me as a person. Did a little bit of athletics as a kid. Played rover in AFL as a kid, so I was in the middle. Represented Borkham Hills there for 3 or 4 years as a rover for the Borkham Hills Hawks. Associated with the Borkham Hills Sporting Club. So again, was running there, and then I guess life took over as you become a teenager and you get a license and you discover girls and you discover pubs and you discover all the misgivings of life as such. So I guess running became a lesser focus there for a few years, and then it was probably going back to when I became a fiery back in 2015, 16. And it was actually, ironically, we're going to be talking about a little bit later, but talking about the stair climb. So Empress Stairs in Wentworth Falls ignited my love affair with trail running. And we were running up, and we'd run from the Con Hut down to Empress Falls and back up. And that was our training for the Sydney Tower climb. And then it moved on from Empress Stairs to doing the local loops around Wentworth Falls, and then you start to meet people, and then all of a sudden, hey Gav, why don't you come out and do Narrowneck, or why don't you come out and do this, or come and do that? And as the time went by, you discover all these unbelievable trails. And coming from someone who spent most of his time working in Sydney, I travelled up and down the highway for work for probably the best part of nearly 18 years, working in Sydney. So I'd leave here the wee hours of the morning, shift work, leaving at midnight. The mountains at the time was only, it was a mortgage, and the reason I went down to Sydney, I would work and come back. I lived up here, it was just a mortgage. I didn't actually enjoy the place. When I discovered trail running for the first time in probably nearly 10 years of living up here, I actually found a purpose and a genuine want to be in the mountains. And as you two gentlemen will attest to, once you discover trail running, once you discover different trails, different folks to run with, it becomes infectious. And that's exactly what it did. So thanks to climbing Centrepoint Tower, that introduced me into trail running. And over the years, it grew bigger and bigger and bigger, and it became more of a, I wouldn't say obsession is the word, but definitely a daily makeup of my life. It was something that you would look forward to. It was something that you wanted to do every day with your friends, challenge yourself. And then when you realise that you're sort of half reasonable at it, and you a level of fitness, and your body would respond to it, and you get stronger and stronger each time, then I guess it just that love affair continued. So, and then over the course of time, from becoming a fiery, I think I did my first UTA. Excuse me, in 2019. I did UTA 22. That was my first ever trail event, and I had the most basic of gear. I didn't have all the gear and all the bling. It was none of the gear and no idea. And I think I ended up doing the UTA 22, my first attempt. I think I did 2 hours 40 or something like that. So I had a reasonable crack at it. And then, yeah, as the years have gone by from 2019, 20, it sort of bumped up to the 50. And it's funny now, we sit here in 2025, and, I've done 500s now, 90Ks into a miler that was stopped last year, several 50s, 40s, 30s. It's amazing when you look back over the years what you've achieved and what you've actually done and what you've shared with people. And it's amazing how quickly the time goes and how many kilometres you rack up.
So when did you get really involved then in the blue? I mean, you talked about how you were running on the trails in the Blue Mountains, and you've touched on some of those places that many of our listeners will know.
Yep.
But when did you then get really involved with that running community? I mean, there's some people that we all share some good friendships with up there in the mountains that we see every time we go and run in the trails, or there's an event up there, particularly with Running Wild or things like that, which you're involved in.
Yep.
But when did you click into that community?
It originally started, would you believe it or not, with Tony Williams and Blue Mountains Fitness. So
I'd believe that.
So Tony roped me into, and I learned a lot from Tony at the time. Actually, it started with him as a trainer. So he'd do his UTA training runs out in the national park, and I'd end up taking either the hares or the tortoises out with him, along with other people that we know, Sean Whitehouse and Andy Lee back then, and there was quite a few people that we would go out and we'd do. We'd be lead of the pack for them and show them the way. And give them tips and all that sort of stuff. So over the years, you know, like with some of Tony's events back at the time, and back at the Glowworm and Ridgy Didge, and some of those events that he's done over the years, and it was started with him. So, and that introduced me to a whole lot more people that I'd never met before, and then over the years, it's now led to now I'm now a committee member with Running Wild. This is my second year with Running Wild now, along with Mel and a lot of whole other guys that we all know. And I actually love being a part of their organisation, promoting their events with them, running their events with them, and introducing. I think the thing I love about Running Wild and being part of their organisation is seeing people who have never done a trail run before. You know, they come up from Sydney. I think the last Narrow Neck night run we did, we had a couple that came up from Wollongong. It was their first trail run. They'd taken on a 20K, and they were absolutely busted by the first 5Ks, but they were determined to do it. They wanted to be a part of it. They knew it was going to be tough. They finished the line. They were some of the last ones to finish. Biggest grins on their face that you've ever seen, and you think to yourself, that's what it's all about. That's why we do this. That's why we're a part of this sport. Everyone rallies around each other, supports each other, and we encourage each other, and it doesn't matter whatever you post, fast or slow, everyone's there for you. Everyone's there to help you out. I guess that's one of the loves about the sport, I guess.
And are there many fireys also trail runner? Yeah.
There's plenty of them actually. Yeah, Kelvin. There's
cool.
I guess from a fireys perspective, you want to keep yourself as fit as you can, obviously, because it's going to help you in your work and your field. Cardio is extremely important. Strength is really important. I think probably the most important thing, and the combination of the two, so being a fiery and keeping yourself fit as a fiery and a trail runner, is your state of mind. That's probably one of the most important things, I guess, for both aspects, you know, both fireys and being a trail runner, or getting out there and doing an ultra, or, you know, you get 55, 60 Ks into a 100K race, and, you know, you're starting to feel average, and your nutrition might be working. Well, it's mind over matter. It's no different. You know, we might be in a house fire, or we might be in a rescue situation. You know, you're fatigued, but you want to be there for that person. You want to be there for your crew. You want to be the best you can for your platoon or team. So I guess that state of mind works hand in hand.
Yeah, that's awesome, Gav. I guess it come in handy, right? Like you can run to the fire.
Well, I was going to say it was because they only work 2 days a week. It might be short. It might be 24-hour shifts, but they've got all that spare time on their hands. That's why Gav's so busy, right? No,
lots of spare time. Yeah, lots of
lots of spare time. And I mean, and look, again, we will talk about this, because that is the one of the purposes that we're here tonight, is to talk about the event there. But you're right. I mean, over the years that, I mean, even myself, I've met lots of fireys that have been either, whether it be trail runners or whether it be triathletes, they apply themselves to that. And I think that's something that I've never really thought of before, Gav, that you just mentioned. It is that state of mind. It's that endurance. It's all of those things that helps test their mind when they've got to go through in those same things. Maybe I should tell my brother-in-law that, but anyway, he may not be listening. So anyway,
I mean, for fire and rescue up here in the mountains, I do what they call the PAT testing for the zone for Met West 3, and so we get these recruits coming in. We do their physical test for them up at the Katoomba Aquatic Centre, typically once every 3 weeks. So you might have a group of 5 or 6 of them come through, and you're explaining to them. It's quite a tough test. The test has been developed by the University of Wollongong, and it fatigues you. It's designed to fatigue you. It's designed to push you. And when they're at the end of their 17 minutes, you know, the body's a jelly, the mind's a jelly. And you basically say to them, look, this is the test, not only your physical endurance, but your mental endurance. Because if you are in a situation and you are in a house fire, for example, or a situation of a nasty predicament, you're buddied up with your mate. You want to make sure that you're there for them. That, you know, they want to be able to rely on you and know that you're going to get them out of that predicament, out of that situation, and them for you. So that state of mind is incredibly important. I think that actually works really well from a trail running perspective. Also, it just gives you that tenacity just to keep pushing, I guess.
And with trail running, Gav, like would trail running also sort of help the mental health side of you guys? Like obviously, I mean, you guys not gonna hopefully not gonna have rescue every week, like
Yeah.
but obviously every now and then you come across some rescue that like I guess potentially really affect your sort of like mental state. Like so I guess it would sort of like trail running like help you sort of like not recover but sort of like help you keep it on a sort of like healthy state for your mental health. Like
Yeah, it does. No, it certainly does. And I mean, just heading out into the bush up here,
mm,
or wherever you live, it doesn't matter whether you're down in the Grampians or in the Blue Mountains, or you're over in Hong Kong, doing the Trans Lantau, whatever you're doing.
mm,
I think for all of us that enjoy trail running, and for all of us that enjoy just whacking a headlamp on at 3 o'clock in the morning and saying, I'm just going to go for a 6 hour run, or going for a 6 hour run as part of a training schedule at 6 o'clock on a Friday night, whatever. You're just going to go and just go for a run, to be out there in nature by yourself or just with a mate, or meeting up with people halfway. Again, I'm speaking to the converted here. That state of mind it's just the best. Nothing beats it, as you'll both attest to, and it's and I think any job that you do, be it emergency services, be it sitting and cooped up in an office all day, be it lopping trees, it doesn't matter what it is. Heading out into the bush with a pack on and knowing that you're not going to return for 3 or 4 hours or 2 hours or whatever your distance is, it doesn't matter what your distance is that's therapy in itself.
yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
And you mentioned it before, it's the community as well, that like-minded people that you're surrounding yourselves in there.
Yep.
And I think there is, and the Blue Mountains, we're all got an affinity, particularly for anyone in New South Wales, particularly, and in the Sydney area and beyond. But we now have multiple events there every year, so people travel far and wide to come to the Blue Mountains because it's a mecca. It's a mecca for climbing. It's a mecca for nature. It's a mecca for now trail running.
Yeah.
But the community that's already there, and you mentioned this before, it is close knit, and I see you now, Gav, as one of those people in the community, in the trail running community in the Blue Mountains, that attracts kind of, I don't want to call you groupies or followers, or that's not what I'm talking about, but there's certainly, you attract the like-mindedness because you're all doing it for the same reason, but you're all in it because this is your home and this is what you want to go and share. But you just love it so much that it just oozes friendship, it oozes community, it uses this vibe that is unlike, other places that are probably a little bit disconnected because of the busyness of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's right. I think we all feed off each other too. When we're out there doing our thing, it's sort of, I think, like you say, like like-minded people attract, and I think there's nothing better when you're out there. And I mean, you know what it's like. You might be doing a loop of solitary or something like that, and you're halfway over the top, and someone's coming the other way, and it's like, oh, g'day, how you going? And it's just, I didn't know you're running this way, and sometimes the other person might run back the other way just to hang out with you, or when you're training for UTA and you're on the front 50 or something, the same thing. It doesn't matter where it is. It does. We all look forward to that spontaneity of bumping into each other out in the middle of nowhere, and just being with each other. It's infectious. Absolutely.
And it's also traveling on the land, and the indigenous land that we're moving across up there in the mountains. It is something. Maddie Raymond, who you and I both know, who comes over to UTA every year now, and is on the commentary team with me there. Like he talks about it. There's something that gets him every time he steps foot in the mountains. It's this magic. It's this aura,
Yep.
and it is the spiritual side as well. And I think you guys living up there, you're living and breathing it, and that's what I'm sort of trying to touch on here. Is I think there is a bit of a aura there.
I think there is. Well, I mean, I moved up here in 98 and 98, 99, and I don't think I could ever move back. It's like, you'll often hear us complain about the cold every year and the long winters and the fact that, Sydney's in shorts and T-shirts and we're still burning fires sometimes in October and start of October, long weekend and stuff like that. And, that happens. But I don't think I could ever move back to Sydney, and the mountains does have that draw, and the community does have that draw. Since I started working for myself too, if I have to travel, it sounds funny. We often joke about it. We all work locally, but if I have to travel past Springwood, that's too far. Now, it used to be Port Botany at the fuel terminal, or it was Silverwater for the fuel terminal, or it was the centre of Sydney to put a tower crane together, or it was whatever. But now it's to work, live, run, to spend 90% of my time now as a firey in the mountains. I've got to say, I'm a much more peaceful person. I feel a lot happier with myself being in the mountains. Could just get a little warmer. Maybe the winters wouldn't be as cold. That'd be nice.
So you found your place.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I've and now the fact that I can spend more time doing what I'm doing in my leisure time and hanging out with mates and doing all that sort of stuff. It just makes it even more worthwhile.
So, and I just love that sort of image that we've created here in terms of hopefully taking some people into the mountains there for a moment. Tell us about a few of your trail and ultra journeys that has then, I guess, helped you work out a little bit more about you and how you approach things as well. I mean, I know we've talked about that,
Yep.
but take us on a trail with Gav.
Well, I can give you, and you were there for both times too, mate. So, and you know exactly what I'm going to say. So remember that year I did the UTA 100, and I'd been particularly busy with work leading up to. I'd unfortunately sacrificed a lot of my training time for work. I'd just done bits and pieces of training here and there, and I remember thinking I'm going into this. Undercooked wasn't the word. I was raw. I was frozen in the freezer, and I remember standing at the start line with Rob Inshaw and looking at him, and he said to me, "You don't look happy." And I said, "Rob, I just don't even want to be here. I don't even know why I'm here. I've done nothing to do to prepare for this." And it was probably the longest, most difficult, physically and mentally, time out in the bush that I've ever done. It was horrible. I didn't want to be there, and had to accept the fact that I only let myself down. This was something that I was supposed to enjoy. I'm watching everyone else around me do it easy. Running. I've got to work at running. I'm not a Daniel Jones or a Mikey or any of those guys. I've got to work at it, but I am blessed with relatively good fitness, and I can typically knock some events over in a reasonable time for a sort of a middle of the range runner. I take a lot of pride in that. I take a lot of pride in the fact that a lot of the time I can knock a lot of the 18 to 39-year-olds over in their age categories for my age group, and I take that that's a challenge when I go into a race too. But this particular 100, it was horrible, and you saw me at the finish line. I was shattered, physically shattered, mentally shattered, and just the smile on your face was like, thank God I've seen him. Thank God it's over. Never want to ever do this again. And then it was, and we say to ourselves, as we all said, never going to do that again. That was just not done with it, finished with it. And then it was like a couple of months after I thought, you know, I'm going to have a red hot crack at the next one. And all of a sudden you get the bug again, you start to heal again inside, you start wrapping your head around things and you focus. And the year after in the UTA, the year after, I was able to shave nearly 3 hours off my time from the year before, just from training properly, from eating properly, keeping your head on top of things and focused. And I think I came in just over 15 hours, which is the best time that I've ever been able to achieve the UTA 100 in. And I remember just thinking, now that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And that has probably spurred me on now. Once I knew that I was able to do that, that then started the thought process. Well, I'll have a crack at another one, and I might have a go at a mile now. So that was, I think that was my fourth 100 back then, and but I'll have a go at a mile now. So you realise what you can achieve when you actually give it a bit, and you get your head in the right space. You listen to the right people. You follow your nutrition plan. You do what the coach says, and then it just falls into place, and that bug's back again. So that you just want to get out there and do it again.
Speechless. So tell us, and Kelvin.
I'll quickly say it was much more enjoyable seeing you that second time.
I don't know about that. Anyway, I don't know if it's that enjoyable seeing me when you cross the finish line, but anyway. Now we were just chatting about this off air with Kelvin, because Kelvin was there last year, and it was where you had a crack at your first miler. And we were just talking about this off air because you're going back for a redemption this year. Tell us what played out at the GPT last year.
GPT, Grampian National Park, my first miler. Where does one start? Where does one start? I remember sitting in the race briefing in the Halls Gap Hall there with, I think, about 165 or 170 people were all sitting there. And we were being told that it was going to be a total fire ban, and it was going to be particularly hot, and that we needed to stay hydrated, and that we really needed to focus on our nutrition, and you know, being very focused on being aware of where our bodies were at and all that stuff. And I thought, okay. And then I remember going to bed that night thinking, the night before thinking, geez, it's hot. It's quite hot. And then we saw all the total fire ban signs come out the next morning before we started race day. And it was like, bloody hell, it's hot. It's quite hot. And then we're looking at the temperature, and I think it was up near, was it nearly 36 or 37 degrees or something?
Yeah.
37 or something.
And some parts it almost topped 40, out 40.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. And I remember standing at that start line, and I think on the way from Halls Gap, or that morning, I think I'd consumed, I don't know how much water, and I'd pumped up with the electrolytes and the Powerade, and I'd had half a dozen bottles of that on the way there, and we'd really focused on it the night before. And I think we got about, you called the start, Dave, off we raced, we ran up that hill, and then I remember getting about 10 Ks and thinking, this is going to be hard. And you could see people fatiguing already, and it was probably one of the, it was confronting. I mean, the radiant heat coming off the rock at the GPT, don't get me wrong, the most spectacular, beautiful place that I've ever seen. It's, how would I describe the Grampians? It's the Blue Mountains on steroids. Blue Mountains local. So it's the most amazing place I had ever seen. And just thinking, you are really going to chew me up and spit me out here. I'm going to have to really stay on top of this. And normally, as we'd spoken off air, normally I'm sort of like around about a 5.5 hour sort of 50K runner, 5:15, 5:30 sort of 50K runner sort of thing. And this particular race, it took me 11 hours to complete 50Ks. I was utterly destroyed. I was so dehydrated. I was just fatigued. I was watching people just drop off everywhere we go. And credit to Joe and Colin on the day. They provided all the aid stations with extra ice, and had it not been for my crew that day Rob Philpott, who we all know, and just the camaraderie from the other runners. David Slavic, because another Mountains local, was down there. Sean Philpott was there. We're all running together, and we were just sort of trying to keep each other going, as everyone was trying to keep each other going. And we got to the 30K checkpoint, and a lot of the field had candid at that point. And then when we finally got back to Hall's Gap, I think nearly half of the field or something, was it, Dave? I can't remember, Kelvin. I can't remember. And nearly half of the field had pulled out at Hall's Gap, or they'd missed the cutoff, the 50K cutoff. So it was tough. It was tough. And I'm thinking, so this is the first mile. And I'd been warned about this mile, and people had said to me, you've taken on a tough one for your first one. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it. But I remember, sort of just, I wanted to quit, and I wanted to quit so bad so many times, but it was my crew, Rob Philpott, who was, he's like, when you ask Rob Philpott to do something for you, he sticks to the script. And the script for him was, whatever you do, don't let me stop. And he went, okay, Gav, I'll do that for you. I would get to an aid station, and I'm going, Rob, I'm done, I'm cooked, I'm finished. I don't want to keep going. I just can't do it, mate. And he just absolutely flat ignored me. He'd be changing my flasks in my vest, and he'd be, how's the weather, Gav? And you'll be right, mate, we'll see you at the next one. I'm thinking, he's not listening to me. He's not listening to me whinge. He's not acknowledging my whinging or my pain or my discomfort. He's just laughing at me here, going, see you at the next one. Now, had it not been for Rob, I probably wouldn't have got to Mount William when the sweeps were coming through. So, when they called it because of the heat. So I think our next stretch from Mount William to the next aid station. I think we were like 8 to 10 hours from care or something. Was that one of the reasons that they stopped it, from memory?
Oh, look, there's big reasons that we stopped it. Basically, we were running we were running an event in extreme conditions, and the event organizers and also the area health service, we had a contingency plan. Yeah, we had a contingency plan without going into all of the details, but we had a contingency plan that it was the right thing, and it had to be enacted, and it was enacted swiftly, and it was enacted in a way that was appropriate. So,
the boys did a fantastic job. Everyone did a absolutely fantastic job. It was you couldn't fault anything on the day. It was just one of those things. And that was like, welcome to the world of milers. It was like, okay, here we go.
But you touched on it before. I mean, and you talked about the Grampians there as one of those. I mean, this was your first mile, and it was only the second year that the GPT had been run.
Yeah.
And ironically, well, maybe not, the year before it was torrential rain the whole time, most of the time, and we had lightning. We had to pause it for lightning and all sorts of things. So it was the exact opposite. So who knows what's going to happen? I mean, obviously the Grampians has been through a horrific summer because they did then endure horrific bushfires, as many people know, and so as you've mentioned, there's no escaping the heat. I've got a bone to pick with you, sir, because you were wearing all black, including a black hat and a black t-shirt.
When we talked to Mark Green about that one, when I got back, he said to me, probably was
Mark Green, for those of you who many of you know, is your coach.
Yes, and we were both joking when I got back, and he said to me, probably wasn't a good idea we were wearing black shirts, was I said, probably not, mate. I said, we need different coloured shirts for next time. So it was probably a little bit silly, but I think we just, you're buzzing, you're keen, you don't think about it, and you're at the start line, and it was just like, it's your first one, and you're just thinking, we just want to get into this and have some fun and just see where it goes, and hindsight is a wonderful thing. 100%.
Have you thought about, Gav? Have you thought about what happened if it's gonna be the similar sort of like condition this year? Like, have you thought about things that you're gonna do differently? Obviously, you're gonna change different color of top.
Yeah, 100%. So I've currently I think I've got a blue one at the moment. I think he's got some lighter coloured shirts coming in for this year. So with his new training platform Streak, so that'll be good. But no, this year my training is a whole lot better. I've started my training program 4.5 weeks early. I've actually been cooked the last couple of days, so I didn't get much out toward the end of last week. Unfortunately, I had a bit of a flu, so that sort of knocked me about a bit. But training, I've extended my training this year, so it's approximately a 20-week training program for the mile list. Something I've really focused on. I've got my whiteboard with all my weeks laid out and what I need to do and how I need to do it. And I try and get out with my wife as much as I can and my friends as much as I can. Like she'll be the first one to say, get your bum out of bed and get out there and do it. And she's training for Sydney Marathon at the moment, so she's having a red hot crack, and so we sort of motivate each other there, sort of thing. But yeah, I think probably also as the warmer months kick in. And that was one of the first things that Mark and I spoke about last year was heat adapted training. So, doing the long hike runs, sitting in a spa, sitting in a sauna, getting used to the heat, getting used to running in uncomfortable conditions, running fatigued and any heat combined together and things like that. So, because I'd never run in heat like that ever. I'd never, ever, ever experienced heat like that in a race. Bushfires, yeah. Working in far north Queensland in coal mines, yeah, but never running in it, and that was it was like nothing I've ever experienced. It was horrible. So I guess going into this year's GPT, can't wait to get back down there. We're much better prepared mentally, physically, and knowing that I'd sort of got to the hardest part of the course. Obviously, there was still more to go, but hardest part getting to I think it was Mount William, wasn't it, the 90k mark or 95k mark or whatever it was, getting to that point there and knowing that you've knocked over probably the hardest bit. Now that I know that part of the course, I know mentally what I'm up for, and I guess that I've applied that into my training and my focus, and just being tenacious at it, just staying at it, not giving up, and just saying I've just got to keep going at this, and and it's no point me going down if I'm not going to do the training. So I might as well put it and have a crack at it.
Now I'm going to flip the script a little bit. You mentioned before climbing Sydney Tower, and Sydney Tower. Most people will know it as Centre Point, but its actual official name is Sydney Tower. Just to be factually correct here. What's that?
What's it called now?
It's just called Sydney Tower. It was never, the only reason it got the nickname as Centre Point was because the shopping centre used to be called Centre Point.
That's right.
There's a fun fact for you, but anyway, that's another story for another day. How I know that, but anyway, there used to be this race, and you mentioned it before, and it was a Fireys race. It became known as the Fireys Climb, and it was up the stairs.
Correct.
At Sydney Tower.
Yes.
Now, did you get involved in this from being a fiery, or did you get involved in this for, other reasons?
So my first introduction to Sydney Tower was through fire and rescue. So because at that particular time, the Fireys Climb for MND was actually started and run by a really close mate now by the name of Matt Pridham. He started the event in 2015 for his best mate Adam, who was suffering MND at the time, and he did it as a fundraiser for his mate and to go, I guess, gain awareness for MND, gain some traction into the research and raise funds for the research. So he started this thing as if you're a qualified fire and rescue or the RFS, interstate fireys used to come in full kit, so our turnout tunics, structural helmets, structural boots, gloves and BA. We used to climb from the bottom of Centre Point Tower all the way to the top. So it was 15, from memory, I think it was 98 floors and 1,504 stairs. So, and for anyone that's been on the inside of Centre Point Tower, if you haven't been there, it's like, best way to describe it is like a corkscrew. It just keeps winding up and up and up and up and up. And it's like you sort of don't get a break. Ventilation in the center of the tower is great if you're in the first start group. If you are starting at 9:30, 10 o'clock, the air was pretty putrid by the time you got up there. There was no ventilation, but it was a challenge, and that's how we got into that. So that was through the fireys at that stage. And then from that year on, that was something just we did every year. It was 600 fireys every year. It would sell out in minutes, and we'd all converge into Sydney from all over the state, from other states, and we'd put our gear on and up. We'd start at the bottom and race up to the top as quick as we could, and raise as much money as we could for MND. So I guess that was the beginnings of that one.
How many did you do?
I ended up doing 4 in the end. So I didn't do all 5. I did 4. So and it was a lot of fun. And I mean, there were some really quick guys, and there were some guys who just did their thing. And you'd start in waves, not dissimilar to like a UTA. You'd start in a wave, and I think the quickest that it was ever done, I think, was in 9.5 minutes, or 9 minutes 40 or something like that. I'd have to double check on that, but it was a fella from number 1 in Sydney, and he holds the record for it. And he used to go up in joggers and lightning quick and full kit. Amazing to watch some of these people, but it was your family. It was a spectacle. You turn up with your family, or your friends would be there. You either fight, you go down to stations, or like I said, platoons, and you just all converge in Sydney, and all the streets would be closed off, and up we'd go. And we were raising toward the end of it before COVID put the knock on it. I think we were raising the last year. We raised just over $1 million.
Because they opened it up to the public, didn't they?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So. Yeah. So that's where the tower climb started, and that was a lot of fun, and there's a lot of fond memories there. But so that's where that all began, Dave.
And then now, well, fast forward, you mentioned COVID, kind of, I guess, like it did with many, many things.
Yep.
Pause that for a moment. So then COVID hits, takes that out of action for a couple of years.
Yep.
What then happened from there, and what then inspired you to take this on and turn it into something now that is becoming its own thing, and its own thing that we call the Fireys Climb for MND.
Yep.
And where you hold it and what you do.
So 2019 was the last year we did the tower, and then the C word kicked in, and it knocked us all on the head, as we all know. The spicy cough, as Matt Raymond calls it, the spicy cough. Then we, so 2020, the tower climb was knocked on the head because of proximity, with people, with maintain distancing and all that stuff. So fire and rescue were cautious, and rightly so. Centre Point Tower were cautious, rightly so. So that year, by myself and with one other gentleman who we know, Sean Philpott, we went up we thought we'll just get together and we'll just do our own little thing. And I think up on the further stairs, so we came up with this idea that we'd meet at Scenic World, and we'd climb up and down the further stairs as many times as we could. And that was in 2020. That was the first one. And I think that year, him and myself, I think we did 3.5 hours together, and I think we raised about $3,500 or something. So it was a concept back then. It was just a thought, and it was just a couple of mates getting together, because we, as a fire, and there were a lot of us at the time, when we couldn't conduct this fundraiser in the Sydney Tower anymore because of those situations, it was like, well, what are they going to do? How are we going to keep fundraising these people? Like this disease is going to keep multiplying and increasing. We have to continue the funding for it. What are we going to do? So we just started our own little thing, and Macquarie University at the time put out it all sort of happened very quickly. So Macquarie University at the time just put out a concept, because that's where all the research is done. They have the MND Research Centre there, and they put out this concept of just coming up with a virtual climb. So that was our virtual climb that year. And then 2021, a couple more people got involved, and I think that year we raised about $6,500 or $7,000 or something in small increment gains, leading up to now, where I think I checked just online just before we started this podcast. I think we're just short of $60,000. 2.5 weeks out from the climb, and we've got fireys this year coming from all over Australia, all over the state, and also internationally. We've got some Kiwi fireys coming over. It's pretty cool to see it transitioned into, excuse me, what it is now. It's 10 years this year, so it's the 10th year of Fireys Climb this year for MND. And it's not just an event for fireys, which is one thing that I felt was really important too, because as much as it was nice being a part of the Centre Point Tower climb as a fiery, and you exclusively had to be a fiery to do it. This is trail runners effectively started this event and have given the event that the recognition that it deserves over the years, and it's just the support of mates. And again, trail runners from interstate, again, coming up each year and camping up in Scenic World car park in vans and cars and doing all that sort of thing. And it's now morphed into an event that we can do for 24 hours.
Well, that's the thing. So 2020, 3.5 hours, you say.
Hours. Yeah.
So when I came on board a couple of years ago, it was, I think, 12 hours.
Yep. Yeah.
And then it went to 18 hours. And then last year was our first year at 24 hours. So just to put that into perspective, for people, it's a race or an event. And it's do it at your own speed, do it at your own pace. It's all in aid for obviously M&D, and we're going to touch on more about M&D in a moment. But just to give people the perspective who maybe aren't as familiar with Furber Stairs. So Furber Stairs is right next to Scenic World in the Blue Mountains. Scenic World being, the big centre there with the cable car and the train and everything there. But Furber Stairs, for many people that will know this, of course, is the final finish or the final vertical kilometre of what has become the Ultra Trail Australia by UTMB. And it is 952 stairs, give or take, straight up and straight down. Now, most people, when they take on the undertaking of any of the distances that at UTA, they're in their mental game. They know that they've got to go up Furber Stairs. So
it's a own battle in itself, isn't it?
Absolutely. So when you tell people, oh yeah, we're doing the Fireys Climb for M&D, and they go, oh, what's that? Well, it's a 24-hour stair climb up and down Furber Stairs. And they look at you and they go, what? And I actually even told someone about this last night.
My God.
And they went, hang on. Up and down Furber Stairs for how long? 24 hours. And I'm like, yeah. Now, it's a bit of a choose your own adventure. I think our winners last year did 36 laps up and down.
Just over 70 Ks, mate.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's 70 Ks up and down. So a lap is not down, it's down and up. So that is one lap.
Yep.
And this particular individual that I was explaining this to last night, their jaw hit the ground when I was explaining this to them, and they're like, "What?" And I said, "Well," I said to them, and now, and the people that were there last year, we all had a crack, and we all did a couple, and some people, as I said, did 36, and a few of us, even my daughter, my 10-year-old daughter now, she did 2 laps last year. It's a different approach. You do it differently when you're going down and then you're coming up again.
Yep.
So hopefully that's painted a little bit of a picture of this is a very different type of stair climb, because obviously it's outside. It's not in a big rusty tube that's in the middle of Sydney.
I'd much rather climb the Furber Stairs than go up Centre Point Tower. I mean, Centre Point Tower had its place, but the fresh air. There's nothing quite like climbing all night and then watching the sun come up over the back of the Three Sisters. That's maybe a photo that I can share with your podcast at some stage. It's quite extraordinary, actually. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. You've got through the night. You can smell the coffee brewing at Scenic World, and it's like it's nature. It's just being out in nature, and enjoying it all, I guess. So yeah, all the stairs are uneven. There's steel stairs. Some of the stairs slope backwards. I mean, you guys know, and for those that don't know, the cut stone section of the actual further stairs themselves. They were cutting that stone face a long time ago, and they're pretty worn, and there's no even step, and some of them are actually pushing you backwards. So it's for those that know it, we know what the further stairs are about.
So incredible, Gavin. Like almost like this is a vertical backyard ultra, is it?
Well, one young fellow by the name of Nick Cortez last year actually did his first marathon on the first.
Oh, wow.
That was his first marathon, so he'd never done a marathon before. So, and it was on the further stairs. So, yeah, it brings out the best in people, that's for sure.
So what is the total elevation of the record holder? Do you know?
Well, last year, I know the guys that did over 70 Ks, they knocked up over 8,000 meters.
Wow.
Yep.
That's Mount Everest, nearly.
Yeah.
Well, we said that. We actually said that last year that they almost climbed Everest.
They weren't far off from Everest.
And there was, so
Wow.
you mentioned obviously that this is still the Fireys climb. So obviously you being still an integral part of the Fire and Rescue New South Wales. You had a couple of colleagues there last year as well that were coming along for the ride and raising money there, and they wore their kit going up and down. So tell us this year, and it's escalated every year. But this year, the Fireys that are getting behind it every year, what are they doing this year?
Okay, so this year for the event, so the event starts at midday on the Friday, and that's open to anyone. That's open to Fireys, trail runners, whatever. So that kicks off at midday on the Friday. This year from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. on the Saturday, so after like at the 18-hour mark, you'll see Fireys this year back in turnout gear. So you'll see them in their helmets, in their GP jacket, in their structural boots, and this year we've reintroduced the BA, which is our breathing apparatus, which we use. So it'll be back plates and cylinders, just like we used to do on the tower climb. I've been able to acquire some sets from a really good bloke by the name of Dave Smith down in Hazmat Logistics, and he's all these sets are decommissioned. So thanks to Fire and Rescue for that. They've supplied those. And yeah, so you'll see Fireys for between 6 and 7, 7 and 8, etc., all the way up to 11 to 12, going down the further stairs once and back up once in full kit. So some of those Fireys will have been running for 10 hours. Some of them have been running for 12 hours, and then they're going to do a climb down and a climb back up once in their kit. So some are just going to do it the once. They've all been able to do, choose their own distance and choose their own mantra for the day. So yeah, so it's going to be great to see the Fireys in full kit on the stairs again this year. Not dissimilar to the tower. Unbiasedly saying, probably with a much nicer view though.
So we're talking about this is the 29th and 30th of August this year.
That's right.
For those that are doing the Sydney Marathon on August 31st, there'll be nothing like doing a little bit of stair climb training 2 days out before you take on the Sydney Marathon.
One or two reps won't hurt you.
Yeah, one or two new reps. So as you say, like it doesn't matter how many reps you do. You can come along and do as little or as much as you need. But ultimately, so that's the Fireys. But you mentioned Matt before, Matt Pridham, and
yep,
and who's your mate there, but this comes back to what we're doing it for, and that is motor neuron disease. That is MND. And Macquarie University's involvement with that. And this is an integral part of what this story is all about.
Yep. So Macquarie University, so it's the research is headed by a professor by the name of Dominic Rowe, who I've mentioned before. How would I describe Dom Rowe? Dom Rowe is probably one of the smartest, if not the smartest person that I know with the most earthly use. He's one of those guys that could pick apart and pull apart DNA and physiological problems or whatever the situation is. Dom can sort it, but he'd be the first person just to sit down with you and have a beer at a pub or a coffee or whatever. He's just a down to earth human being who absolutely genuinely cares. And he's basically the motivation for all of this, and so are his sufferers, and he's quite passionate about this cause. Just recently he is of the opinion, and the research is heading toward the fact that MND is actually an environmental disease. Now they can't 100% prove that yet, but there's a lot of things that are leaning toward that prognosis and that diagnosis. So, and currently the state of play with MND is 2 people are being diagnosed with motor neuron disease every day, and 2 people are dying every day from motor neuron disease, and the stats are increasing, and there are hot spots now forming over the state in certain areas, and a lot of them are agricultural areas. So there is something in this, and to put it in Dom's words, road crash investigation. So we had, and he's not minimising or diminishing any of this, but say the road toll, for example, might be 350 people. It receives more funding than what motor neuron disease does, and you just got to put the numbers together and work out how many people the motor neuron is killing every year, and it's staggering. So we really do need the money for the research into this one. It's something, and it's increasing in our community.
Yeah, it sucks. It really sucks, and we've all been impacted in terms of we know someone or of someone that has had MMD, and I'm not going to take Dominic's words of some things that he shared last year, but he's extremely passionate, and as you say, Gav, he is fighting a battle that he's confident that one day we will win.
Yep.
But it's a battle that needs the support of others. And I was just jumping on your website there, mate, and you're right. We're just shy of that $60,000 mark.
Yep.
You've got a very modest goal of 100,000, which I'm sure we're going to be able to crack by the time we end of getting to this event.
Absolutely.
But the community again, and I'm going to bring it back to the Blue Mountains for a second here. We've just talked about the further stairs, but it's the community that also is now rallying behind Gav Clifton and the Fire East Climb for MNDs, which is now, been nicknamed the Fire East Climb. But you've got a huge Blue Mountains crew that are backing you there, and not just the guys at Scenic World that are a huge support. But what does it mean to have now that community around you that you've invested in yourself? You're an integral part of, but that are now backing you in what you're so passionate about in putting this on?
It's quite. I never expected it to be like this. I never expected, to be honest with you, I never expected. It's overwhelming to see that. It's nice when people are asking you, when's the next date? When are we doing it again next year? And when people are chasing you now, when the entry's open, and it's quite humbling. And it also it spurs you on too, I guess. I love the fact that so many people now are interested in doing it, and they are pursuing the dates, and they want to be a part of it, and they're increasing their distances every year, and our Blue Mountains community is an amazing place. All the running groups talk together, and it's infectious, and It is. It's an incredible feeling. It really is, to know that, you've got the support of the running community. You've got the support of big organisations like Scenic World. You've got the support of national parks. They bend over backwards to help out with this event each year, and they're very forgiving. They're very extremely helpful. It is. It's somebody said to me the other day, it'll be the biggest thing that's happening on the mountains that weekend, and and I never thought it would be, and that never occurred to me at the time. And I thought, wow, that's sort of right. Actually, there'd be a lot of like-minded, focused people all hanging out, all working hard, all running up and down stairs, busting their guts, doing it harder for people who are doing it a whole lot harder. And it's an incredible feeling. Actually, it's inspiring. Inspires me every year. It's amazing.
Well, you're a bit of an inspiring character, Gav Clifton, that's for sure. So that's why both Kelvin and I definitely wanted to get you on here, not just to spruik the Fireys climb, because yeah, sure, it's an event that is close to all of us in a way, but it's to get behind the mind of Gav Clifton that is driving this, and that's why we want to talk to extraordinary people like your good self. So
Thanks, man.
thank you for thank you for coming on and sharing a little bit about you and sharing a little bit about your story. Now, of course, Kelvin, we've got one last thing to check in with Gav about.
Yeah, definitely, Gav. Well, I think as you know, I think we always ask our guests at the end, like, what was their cowbell moment. So, Gav, I hope you have some cowbell moment that you can share with us.
Yeah, I do. I've got two. Can I share two with you? Would that be all right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
So, probably my first and probably one of the most rewarding things I've done, and the reason this will probably be the sign, like this will be the finish off for the climb side of it, will be. I remember, and all of us remember the first time that the first time we ever did the climb at Centrepoint Tower, and you'd be donning all your gear, getting all your gear on, ready to go, and then you'd be met at the bottom of Sydney Tower by MND sufferers back then, and they'd be saying, "Thanks for doing this. Like, really appreciate you doing this. This is creating awareness and helping us." And then you go and do your thing up the tower, and you get up to the top, and then there'd be MND sufferers up the top, and they would they'd be up there to peel your gear off up the top and help you, give you drinks and electrolytes, and they'd be thanking you. And you go there the year after, and they wouldn't be there. And for a lot of us, we found that really confronting, and that really a lot of us. And I remember each year getting to the top and just seeing the smiles on their faces, and I guess the joy that they had to give in the condition that they were in. That was just something. It was like a light bulb. It was just awesome, and it was just like, that's why we went back and kept doing it each year, and that's why we wanted to do it each year, and that's never ever left me, to be honest with you, nor a lot of us who are still doing it. So that was certainly a special memory and a special moment. And I guess another cowbell moment for me would be something that rings true. And I've done a lot of really cool races, and I've had good races, bad races. Had times where I've surprised myself with my time, and it's all come together or whatever. But I think probably the two of the most enjoyable things I've ever done, to be honest with you, is actually pace one of my mates. He's done 2 milers now. So one of my mates, Shakespeare, and I paced him. I've paced him twice now for the Extraordinary East, which was an event that was on a few years ago. And then just most recently in the new Ultra Trail Miler by ETMB there, and I picked him up at 6 foot track and ended up doing 73 clicks with him, which was really good fun. And I think it got more satisfaction and more enjoyment sharing someone else's journey out there running with them than what I have my own, to be honest. Like, you feel satisfied, and you enjoy success, and you enjoy achieving things for yourself. But I guess being able to do that for someone else and see them succeed and see them in their dark spots and keep pushing them through and getting them to the finish line, I probably found that more satisfying than anything that I've sort of done for myself. So, and I can see it from the perspective of my support crew, and I guess you look at it and you just go, wow, like that was just one of those moments that you'll never forget. And I'd pace someone again tomorrow, like it's for a big race. It's bloody good fun. So, when they start whinging, you can kick them along a bit and tell them to shut up and keep going. And so for me, I guess those two moments are probably special moments that have stuck out in my mind in the last couple of years. That's for sure.
Gav, you're an incredibly compassionate, you're incredibly giving, you're an incredibly generous human being, and I hope, well, I know from even hearing you talk tonight, I've learned things about you that I didn't know, but I'm sure that many people listening to this will walk away going, yeah, sometimes we don't need to sit still. We
Yep.
need to be as busy as Gav Clifton. And if you can inspire a few people out there to be as busy as Gav Clifton and to have the aura, just like the mountains that I think you do, champ, it's very deserving. So thank you so much for being part of this evening. As always, we will say to all of our listeners, please, if you liked what you heard this evening, please like, share, and spread the love on socials. But we will share all of the links to the Fireys Climb for MND. But just to read it out now, it's Fireys Climb for MND.org.au. So that's FIRIES Climb for MND.org.au. That is where you can go along. You can donate. You can register there. You can read a whole bunch of information about the Fireys Climb. It's happening later this month. But again, we will put that on all of our socials and media that we share. But can't wait to be part of it again. And what are you daring me to do this year, Gav?
I don't know. I don't think I'd actually come to a final decision on that yet, Dave.
No, you'd already told me. You'd already told me.
I might just surprise you on the day, mate.
Okay.
Yeah. I might.
Yes.
Yeah.
Someone might be donning a fire
That's-
and rescue full regalia to go up and down further stairs and raise some money. So
You heard it there first, folks.
That's awesome, Gav. Yeah, I think I just want to thank you. I think I really appreciate sharing your story, and you're definitely extraordinary every day, exactly like our tagline. And I think especially I think you only not just like doing something extraordinary to yourself, like, but also to the people who are in need, like inspiring other people. I think that's incredible. Thank you so much, Gav.
That's a pleasure, Kelvin. Thank you for having me, mate. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Gav.
See you guys. Have a great night.
You too.
Thanks.
See you, mate.
Appreciate it.